Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review. I am back with another installment of the DeAgostini Collectibles Build the Ford GT. Now currently I'm working on Pack 17, and that includes most of the assembly work for the engine. We'll get the engine mounted onto the subframe. So this is fantastic and I'm really enjoying this. If you haven't done so already, head over to DeAgostini Collectibles and subscribe to this fantastic car today. Get it while you can because it may not be available here very soon. So hurry up and subscribe. With that, let's get started. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review. I am pleased to bring you another installment of the Build Your Own Ford GT by DeAgostini Collectibles. I am currently working on Pack 17, stages 78 through 82. Now, this is a fantastic car and I would highly recommend this build for you. So if you haven't done so already, head over to DeAgostini Collectibles and subscribe to this car today. It's readily available and get it while you can. They do rotate their cars, so get in on it before it goes away. I would highly recommend it. It's been a lot of fun to build and I'm having a blast doing it. So 5 more stages were received. Let's look at one of the magazines. For you to look at the rest of the magazines, you'll have to subscribe to this yourself. So they do get into the history of this car in the magazine, along with a lot of the other Ford Motorsports products out there. And DeAgostini did do a lot of research in this magazine, and it's dated from 2022. So around 12 pages of semi-gloss pages, very nice photography and articles, as you can see. Then it gets into the build part of the magazine, step-by-step instructions, very nicely illustrated, easy to follow, great write-ups on what to do in the build itself. So there you go. So let's look at the parts that came with this pack. With this pack, I'll be working on the engine again. We'll be adding more components to the engine. So stage 78 is the other valve cover and head. Stage 79, more parts for the engine, the front of the engine. Stage 80, the other half of the engine block. Stage 81 would be the exhaust system for the one side, and stage 82, the exhaust system on the other side. Let's get started on stage 78. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 78. Upper right engine block, and you can see these are the parts that were included. Cylinder head and valve cover. Breather cap. Install the breather cap on the cylinder head. Very simple there. And that's what it should look like. Let me get the parts and I will be right back. Here's the parts for 78. I'll take this out, we'll get a closer look. FP01 screws. Here's the breather, the cylinder head, made of plastic, and the valve cover. I love the graphics that's on this. It's also made of plastic. We're going to go ahead and install the breather onto the valve cover. Now it is keyed, so it only goes in one way. Just like that. Use one of the FP01 screws. That's good there. Then we'll bring over the cylinder head and we'll line it up. And you'll note that on the cylinder head it has a large hole and a small hole. So we'll go ahead and line it up that way. And 2 FP01 screws go into this from the bottom. And that's good there. That's how that looks. That's all I do with stage 78. Let's go ahead and do stage 79. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 79. This time I work on the front cover of the engine block and pulleys. Here's all the parts involved. Very cool there. Pretty easy to do here. Pretty nice parts and components here. And we're going to mount that onto the front of the engine block that we already have assembled, at least the front half that we have. And the oil sump next. That's what that looks like. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's the parts for stage 79. Let's get a closer look. FP01 screws and FP07 screws. All the parts here are made of plastic and they look very nice. Very cool. Has a great finish to it. Let's get started. Go ahead and install the alternator here and turn this over, and it's going to mount to the back side of the alternator just like that. FP01 screw goes into that. That's good there, nice and snug. Next we'll install parts of the water pump. So with the water pump, that's this right here. We're going to insert this just like that. And we're going to grab our next part here and we're going to put that down on top of it. Like that and like that. That's cool. I like how that looks. And we'll put in 2 more FP01 screws right here. That's good there. That's how that looks there. That is very cool. Bring over our engine block, the half that we assembled in stage 77, and we're just going to simply mount this just like that. That's how that looks there. And we're going to put another FP01 screw into on the back side. And that's fantastic. Wow, very nice. And one more thing, we're going to prep this to install a little bit later. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 screws into this. These are the FP07 screws. These screws do have a flange, so we're going to screw those down. And that flange will hold it in place a little bit later when we install the other half of the block. There we go. And that is our oil sump complete. And that's all I do with stage 79. Let's head over and do stage 80. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 80. This time it's the right side of the engine block. And here's all the parts I received. Did receive a hydraulic brake hose. We'll go ahead and assemble the other cylinder head onto the engine half. And then we're going to install that brake hose on the other side of our rear suspension subframe. Make sure everything is secured in place. May have to use a little super glue on that. Go ahead and put the 2 engine halves together, and we'll put some screws in there to hold everything together, along with our upper intake manifold. Very cool. And then that looks like we're going to put on the sump. Looks like we screw everything together there onto the rear suspension subframe. So this is going to be fun here. Let me get the parts and I will be right back. Here's our engine block for 80. Let's get a closer look. FP02, FD08. There's our hydraulic line and our other engine block, which is made of metal. Very cool. First thing I'm going to do is install the cylinder head on here. It does have an alignment notch, and 2 FP02 screws will go into this. Screw goes in at an angle. We'll put it in the hole here first, and then put the screwdriver through that slot, and then drive it in. That's good there. They're both in. That's how that looks there. Now we'll bring over the rear suspension subframe and install this hose. And it's going to go in right there. Just see the hole right there. That's where it's going to go into. There you go, there's the line installed. I found it easier to install it by removing this support brace here, and I'll just reinstall that now that the line is put back in. And there we go. Everything's back together. Alright, so I brought over my intake manifold. We're going to mount that onto the top part of the engine here, and I believe it's going to go down. You have a slot here for that tube, and that's just going to go down. You can see this is going to slot in there just like that, and 2 FD08 screws go into that, and the next one. That's good there. That's how that looks there. Mount it up. Looking great. The oil sump. And then we'll slot that in. And we're going to sandwich in this part. Just like that. That's cool. We're going to put in 2 FD08 screws. And that's good there. Wow. Very nice. And there you go. That completes stage 80. We have the engine mounted on the subframe, and it looks to be assembled very nicely. We did put the oil sump on it on the bottom here, and that looks very nice. Very impressive. So that's all I do with stage 80. Let's head over and do stage 81. Let's continue here and look at the build instructions for 81. And we're going to be assembling the right-hand exhaust manifolds. You go there, the parts. And that's what that looks like there. We're going to install the inner right-hand rear axle subframe. And that's the hose there, that small hose. And route that where it needs to be routed. And you can see the exhaust manifolds are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4 from front to back. And they show us there, illustrate number 2, number 1, number 2. Install number 3, and lastly number 4. And the manifolds are marked, it looks like. And that's what it will look like. Let me get the parts and I will be right back. Here's the parts for 81. Let's get a closer look. Here's that small hose and our exhaust manifold. They are marked with an R1, R2, R3, and R4, and they are all plastic. Alright, so I brought over the subframe and engine, and we're going to mount this hose to this pin on the inner right hand side. You can see that where I have the hose going to. I'm going to put a little super glue on it. And there you go. It's installed. We'll let that dry a little bit. Grab the exhaust manifold that is marked with the number 1, and that's going to go in the very first slot, just like that. Next is number 2. It's going to go right beside it. Number 3. And it took a little coaxing to get those all in place there, and you can see that. And if you look on top, you want all 4 coming together on top of each other, stacked, and leaving them loose because they got to line up with the exhaust manifold. Very nice. So that completes stage 81. Let's head over and do stage 82. And welcome back to the final stage for pack 17, stage 82. And just like stage 81, we're going to install the left-hand exhaust manifold. It's going to be done much the same as before. And like I said, the manifold pieces are numbered 1 through 4, and they go in that order. Very simple. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. And here's the parts for 82. Let's get a closer look. L1, L2, L3, and L4. These are made of plastic just like before, and I'll install those and I'll be right back with them installed. And just like before, number 1 will go right here, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And there you go. All 4 are installed just like the other side. And you can see they stack up on top of each other, and that's how they look on the back side there. Very cool and very easy to do. So that completes Stage 82. And that completes pack 17. I had a blast building all 4 stages for this build. And if you haven't done so already, head over to DeAgostini Collectibles and subscribe to this car today. It's fantastic and I highly recommend it. Looks great, doesn't it? If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Happy modeling, everybody, and take care.